into the early 2000s, things were pretty good. Supply chains were doing doing really well. Things were okay, but then things started to crack a little bit, and eventually it broke. But things like we went offshore, outsourced and offshored a lot of stuff. We had a lot of stuff manufactured overseas, and it would come over on, as they would say, the slow boat. And that was great until...
Hi, it's Alex Jarrett with Technology Executives Club, and you're watching another episode of CIOs Unleashed, where you'll get insights, inspiration, and strategies that actually work. Be sure and visit us at technologyexecutivesclub.com, where you can get your first masterclass workshop on demand worth $297 for free. That's technologyexecutivesclub.com.
And that was great until everybody was doing that, and the slow boats were all backing up on the West Coast. We didn't have enough deep water ports to manage all of those, to service all of those things coming in. So now, rather than being the slow boat, it was sort of like the slow boat plus, how much time is it going to be parked off the West Coast waiting to get into a port? Sometimes things would take, extra months before they were offloaded and being able to get into the regular supply chain trucking over to where you needed those things. So it got really kind of crazy there, that now you no longer could count on that set time to travel from Asia over to the West Coast and then onto the trucks or trains. You had to worry about how much time is it going to sit in the water waiting to get to a port. That really messed with supply chains. That started causing some perturbations. And then, we're also seeing cyber attacks on all sorts of companies. But it's, again, shutting down companies' ability to deliver their product because they have no control over their data, over their systems. That's throwing perturbations into the system. That's, hitting against that just-in-time concept. And we also have, political upheaval in terms of, and I'll start with the small stuff. It's like, here we call out U.S.-China trade disputes and things like that are causing problems that slow down the supply chains again. And now get into some of the bigger things. So, for example, we had national disasters like in Japan and Thailand, and that caused problems, throughout the supply chain, and that was a problem. And hitting the really big ones, COVID has rocked the supply chain. It has caused, well, we all were looking for toilet paper at one point in time, and it seems kind of silly, but the supply chain for toilet paper should be pretty straightforward, pretty easy, you would think, but we couldn't find it to save our souls. And same with Ukraine and what's going on there. All of these things are just throwing supply chains, up in the air, causing all sorts of problems. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And basically, we came back with, and I'm going to go over three things that everybody started to worry about, started to realize that we really didn't have, that we needed to work on. One of those is, can we see everything in our supply chain? Do we really know what's going on out there? And the short answer is no, we really didn't know. We usually had information about stuff close to us, but we didn't have information about anything very far along in what was going on. We needed to be able to see where things were. If I think about it, in retail, it's like we had started working on some of this, but what's being manufactured, what's in the the factory and inventory there, what's in the distribution centers, what's on the trucks, well, between the factory and the distribution to the retailer, let's say, or the whatever it is, and then what's in the back room at the retailer, and what's on the shelf. That is kind of important, being able to see where those things are, to be able to work with that information. And what's even more interesting about that is, back in the day, things were, again, pretty nice and easy, pretty straightforward. So we, in the retail side of things, bucketed everything into weeks. We didn't worry about where is it today. We worried about where is it this week. But all of a sudden with COVID and that toilet paper, it's like we were much more concerned about where is it today? What do I have on the store shelves, back room? What's on the truck on the way? How far away is it, in fact, in some cases? But we didn't have that transparency. Everything that we had done, every system that we had built up to that point had been thinking about it in, weeks is plenty of detail in order to be able to track this. We don't need that much information here. That changed drastically when the supply chain was disrupted. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. And then the next thing that we saw was, or want to know is, if I've got a problem with the supplier, can I adjust? What can I do? And this is, I talked about that, being able to see our, what's going on to some extent with our, tier one suppliers. In fact, we're usually really good with our tier one suppliers. We identify who's best. We get, sort of adjustments. We don't pick just one. We usually have a couple that we're working with to make sure that we've got some redundancy, some, as I say here, resilience in what's going on. But rarely have we worried about what goes on beyond that. And all of a sudden now we have to worry about that. I mentioned that the natural disasters, the one in Japan, especially with the earthquake and then the tsunami that came with it. Toyota had done a great job laying out their tier one suppliers, making sure that there was, safety geographically and all of this, and they felt really good. They felt like they were in good shape. But when that tsunami hit, they realized they had a huge risk. All their tier one suppliers had used the same tier two supplier. And all of a sudden, everything they had was at risk. They weren't going to be able to get what they needed. And that was a big problem. So all of a sudden, we need to think about, can we bounce around to different suppliers? And it's maybe not as much just, where we're at right now. So being able to be resilient with our suppliers is important, okay? So next slide. All right. And then finally, we need to think about, can we adjust to what's going on in the market? Can we adjust to demand shocks? COVID was one of those as a good example. Can we move production if we have to? Examples, we get many more tornadoes now, hurricanes, and things like that. Can I move production of what I make in Texas down in Houston from Houston to a plant that's in North Carolina, or vice versa? Can I literally look at and think about adjusting? And I worked on this with a parts manufacturer for a tier one parts supplier to the big automakers, what we call world-class manufacturing system, where we help them model their plants, the lines in the plant, and the shifts on the lines, so that they could think about, if I need to adjust production in any way, shape, or form, can I move it to a different plant? Can I add or turn on a line? Can I turn on shifts? Can I turn off shifts if I don't need them? All of that is something that I likely want to be able to think about being able to do, but can I do that? Do I have visibility to be able to make those changes in production, to be able to adjust? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So hopefully I've woven the story. All of a sudden, supply chain has become a huge deal to the executives and to the board in terms of transparency, resilience, and flexibility.
Hi, it's Alex Jarrett, and thanks for watching another episode of CIOs Unleashed, brought to you by TechnologyExecutivesClub.com. If you like today's episode, be sure and comment to join the conversation, and like, share, and follow. And don't forget, visit us at TechnologyExecutivesClub.com, where you can get your first masterclass workshop on demand worth $297 for free. That's TechnologyExecutivesClub.com.